Program note about the Elias Manco show tomorrow, Thursday. The mayor of Montreal, Soraya Martinez Ferrada, will be on this program. 11:30, right, Max? 11:30 is when we'll have the mayor on tomorrow. Thursday, 11:30. I guess we'll get an update on her car and the towing and the couple of flat tires she got as a result of Notre Dame potholes. Now, you've all heard stories. Maybe you're a victim, right, of driving on a Montreal road, going over a big old pothole and getting damage to your car. The flat tire, the rim, the suspension, you name it. Now, what happens if you actually want to claim it? If you want the city to pay up? You know, the law is just not in your favor. At times, you have to head to small claims court in order to get justice. But how do you do it? Well, let's go to someone who really knows. Francesco Alessi's on the line, went on a 3-year legal battle with the city of Montreal over a pothole, and he's on the line. Francesco, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Tell me about when this happened, by the way. Refresh our memories here. When was this battle with the city?
If I'm not mistaken, the incident occurred in 2021. When I just gotten a new car that was a couple of months old, and I hit a pothole, and I sustained 2 flats, and the vehicle had to be towed.
So it's very similar to what the mayor went through: 2 flats and a towing here. So when it happened to you, tell our listeners about the process that you went through. Did you initially just try and get compensated by the city? Tell us what happened and how you ended up in small claims.
Well, I did call. I contacted the city. I called 311 and explained what had happened, and they simply said, well, put in a claim. So I put in a claim, and then I got a standard form back saying, well, the claim is denied because the town is not responsible for any damages caused to the wheels and suspension. So I had no success dealing with the town, and that's when I said, well, what are my options? They said, well, you can take it to court. So I went to court and waited my turn. And in the meantime, the pothole continued to be there. It was never repaired. Uh-huh. And in fact, that certainly did not hurt the case when we finally ended up going to court, because I had also used Google Maps on the computer, and I was able to see that it had been in that situation for quite a while. And here we are now in court. And it's only once I initiated the lawsuit that the town put some cones to highlight the pothole, and I took pictures of the cones because it took a lawsuit for them to put. The time I called, nothing had happened. It's only after I initiated the lawsuit that the cones went up, and then several months after the cones went up, the cones were simply removed, and the pothole was not repaired.
So I just want to point out, shout out Google Street View. And that is a function some people may not be aware of. In Google Street View, there's you can actually go back in time, go back in history, and see every time that Google went by that street and recorded the road. So there's some historical information on that site as well for people.
Yes, what Google Maps will show, if you go to Google and put in the address of where you sustained the damage, it's going to show you the map, but then if you click, you have a street view. Uh-huh. And then once you click on the street view, it'll give you the option of more dates, and you can go back 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, so you can go back quite a bit.
Tell me about your day in court. Tell us about how it went down. We actually got your day in small claims court against the city.
Well, we had finally the date that the audience was, the case was heard, and I pretty much explained what I simply explained to you right now. And the town relies very heavily on the fact that they have a provision saying the town is not responsible. And what I tried to explain to the town, which I also brought up into the court, I understand the section of the law that says that the town is not responsible, and that seems to be the only section they quote. However, if they just took a moment and went to another section, which I quoted, it's clearly indicated that that section they are referring to does not apply in cases of negligence. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, I was able to demonstrate the negligence. I mean, the pothole is there. It's been there for a long time. I'm calling 311. Nothing happens. When I initiate the lawsuit, finally they put the cones, only to have the cones removed and the pothole's still not repaired.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much demonstrating the negligence, and the judge was kind enough to rule in my favor.
So in your favor. Now, what would be your advice, Francesco, to our listeners who have faced a similar fate? They've got damage because of a pothole. What would be your advice to those people who would have this as a recourse here? What would you tell our listeners?
Well, it's interesting because what I do, we usually take the same roads all the time, and if I'm taking one of my usual roads and I hit a pothole, even if I don't sustain damage, I will reach out to 311 and advise them. I just went on such a street at the intersection and there's a pothole. And I would document that for my files because it has happened to me that, yes, I know there's a pothole, but you're driving, you're watching out for pedestrians. If it's raining, you can't properly see, and you hit the same pothole again. Well, if there has been a lapse of time and that pothole which you reported, it's still not repaired after, I'm telling you, quite a while, then you have, I think, and again, just the way I see it, I think you have a valid argument to say, I called in, I reported it, and nothing was done about it. And if nothing else, just put a cone, because the cone will help. If it's wet on the street and there's a cone, at least you know, okay, there's a big pothole coming up. Now, I can understand you can't put cones on highways, but if I'm using residential streets or local streets that are not a highway, for goodness sakes. To me, it just seems like you're proving that negligence, right? You need to prove that they were negligent here. Let me ask you this to wrap up, Francesco. The work that you put in, right, took three years to wind its way for you to get your court in. You got to accumulate evidence, that kind of stuff. Was the work that you put in worth it at the end of the day to get that money back? Well, I have to just clarify. It's not that it took 3 years of daily
of course,
work from my part. I mean, I had to go down to the small claims and I had to open up a file, and I have to deposit the evidence, and that's pretty much it. Now, what I did, however, is every so often, because it was on my regular route, I would take, like, for example, I said about the pictures. Well, if they're not putting up any cones, and then finally, once I initiate the procedure, you put up the cone, okay, I'll take a picture. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, I see the cones disappear and the pothole is still there. Well, I'll take another picture.
Yeah.
But the 2-3 years it takes is pretty much the time it takes to be heard by small claims court. So it's not 2-3 years of work on my part. I simply initiated the lawsuit. I had my evidence. If additional information came about, well, I would make sure I take a picture and document, and make sure that those pieces of evidence are deposited at the court at least 30 days before the court date.
Well, how much did you end up getting back? How much did they have to pay you?
Oh, my goodness. It was $2,000-$3,000, I think.
Wow. Okay, well, listen, Francesco, I think you've given a lot of our listeners hope and some guidance here on how they truly can fight City Hall when it comes to potholes. Thanks so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Stay well.
That's Francesco Alessi, and there you go. You have it. You can fight City Hall. You can get them to pay for that pothole damage. May take a trip to small claims court.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.